Hi, I'm JMendezNapier of 39 Sketches, author, artist, and a guy who has enough students from my past teaching experience to have them out in the field making a lot of really great art and actually living off of their business. You're watching my limited series that focuses on some of their successes and failures in the building of that. We're hanging out with a photographer today whose specific niche market is the adrenaline sport of off-road racing, modified trucks, and those guys who want to go out there and catch a lot of air. Here's the man behind BlackHat Studios, Evan Walsh. All right, everybody, this is JMendezNapier. Super excited to be with one of my ex-students, one of my 39 Sketches interviews, Life as a Creative. He is a graphic designer. He is a photographer, and he does some really, really cool stuff. Mr. BlackHat Studios, Evan Walsh. How's it going, Evan?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's good. It's good.
Good.
I always just get excited to watch creatives, and so the idea of getting out and trying to find people who are doing the work, and we've been talking for a little while now, just thinking about like, you know, when are we going to get paid, or when's the next job? Mm-hmm. And those are never, ever things I've ever had to think about for decades, right? I have a solid job. I'm doing the work. And now I'm like, hey, what would it be like to be an artist? So what is it like to be the creative that you are? Is it easy?
No. No.
First of all, go ahead and give me why BlackHat. Tell me why is it BlackHat?
It's actually a pretty boring story, to be honest.
Love boring stories.
I was in my last semester of my graphic design program at Fresno State, and we had a class where it was like, oh, now that you're done with all of the art stuff, we're gonna have you one class for you to teach you how to build a business. Yeah. Which was not. It was mostly like, oh, make your own. Basically, the premise of the class was we were to create our brand, our logo, and then we were supposed to create all of the documents and stuff that go along with it. So we had some sort of, thing to go off of. It was like invoices and letterheads and, envelope design, a bunch of stuff for your business, but didn't actually help with any kind of business stuff.
I mean, it had to help a little bit. You put some of your logo design into play.
Yeah, I think it was mostly played towards the creative behind if you had your own business.
Did you think you're going to have a business? I mean, at that time.
No. Because in that class too, they were like, look, there's three types of design jobs. Either you're freelance on your own, you are subcontracted to somebody, or you're in-house. Yeah. So I knew for sure I wanted to either be in-house or on my own. So I came up with BlackHat. The main reason was because everybody in there was so nonchalant about Jason Creative or Lopez Pictures. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather it become its own entity at some point.
I'll just say I'm impressed that you come up with something in college that you've stuck with. Like, there's not a lot of people who say, this is my idea, and change it like 50 times.
And that too, my icon, that is the original icon that I made too in college that I have stuck with.
Well, you came by to talk the last class that I had, and you're like, I got free merch, I got some hats, and man, they were pumped. My brother is big time into the desert racing, right? Okay, there was a period of time where he was helping build the chassis for sand rails. Okay. It blew my mind to think that there's something out there that you could potentially wreck on any given Sunday and just lose all of it. Yeah. And your guys, the things that I see you photograph and that you're working with most often are trucks. Yeah. Right? I mean, you've got your truck outside, I noticed. So real quick, I'm going to throw some fast things. You got to catch me up because I'm super out of the loop. Okay. What's a trophy truck?
A trophy truck is a Formula One equivalent in the off-road racing realm. So a trophy truck is a top-tier race vehicle that is designed to go over big bumps at speed.
Yeah.
in excess of 100 to 120 miles an hour.
And it looks like they're floating.
Yes, they are floating because they have
The suspension on them.
they have shocks. Yeah, they have shocks that are 4.5 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
And they have multiple bypass tubes, and they're also paired with either a 3-inch or 3.5-inch coilover shock. And they have 2 of those, or they have one of each on each corner of the vehicle. And then they just have like multiple feet of wheel travel.
Yeah.
So all of that is meticulously tuned and controlled to where they can hit things as fast as they can.
It's incredible. It really looks like they're a boat in water. They're just flowing through things. I'm looking
we call
at
that dialed.
So you had some guys do some work on a vehicle of yours. I was watching it, and they had this literally like a blue strap that was attached to something. I'm like, what? Why is there a strap?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that just to keep it from?
Yeah, so those are called limit straps. So what those do is it keeps when the vehicle is airborne, and the suspension maxes out, you don't want to overstress the coilover, the shock that's in there, because that's going to be the limiting factor to the suspension drooping out. So what you do is you basically droop out the suspension with everything on there, and then you compress it, I don't know, about an inch, inch and a half, and then that's where you're going to lay your strap. So that strap is going to stop the suspension from maxing out that shock.
So we're talking about everything completely dialed in. So if we're talking, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to, are these, I don't want to call them races, but I guess they're races or they're events. What am I going to? What am I going to go see?
Depends on what you're going to. So if you go to, as far as racing goes, I mean, there's everything from grassroots, small racing organizations that are, mostly garage builds. You might get a few 6100 trucks, which are a spec trophy truck. It's basically the same thing, but they're limited on their motor drivetrain. And then you have all the way down to stock VW bugs, racing out in the desert.
So let's get back to you. You decided, I like this idea of motorsports. I've got a camera. I'm going to get out there and just start shooting. Well,
my initial thought was coming kind of out of high school into college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I know deep down I want to do something creative. I like the motorsport stuff already. And so as I was going through college and, changed my major, I don't know, 3 times. It took me 8 years to graduate college, by the way,
Took me 6. So good job.
With a graphic design degree.
I would have loved to have been there 2 more years, trust me.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I kind of just really liked going to school. Yeah. So I knew I wanted to work in motorsports. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get a graphic design degree. I always doodled. I loved your art classes and stuff. So I was like, I'll get an art degree and I'll do what can make me money in art. Graphic design is pretty much
that's the
main one that can make you money in art, whether you're an illustrator or graphic designer, or you're a logo designer specifically, or any of that kind of stuff. But so I was like, I'll go with that, and then we'll go that direction, and then I'll be a graphic designer on a trophy truck team. So.
Did you know anybody in the industry, or were you just cross my fingers?
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, So let me go back to that. So once I decided this is what I want to do, that's what I did. I did my prereqs at City and then transferred into Fresno State. And then as I was going through the graphic design program, I needed photos for certain projects that I was working on. So I was like, I'll just buy. I had some grant money, so I used some of that money and bought my first camera. And just started taking pictures of things that I needed for graphic stuff. And then I had buddies who were building trucks in their garages out in Clovis. And they're like, hey, we're going to go to this race in Primm, Nevada, which is the little town, the couple casinos you hit right at the state line. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're going to go race this race called Battle at Primm. I'm like, okay. You should bring your camera and take pictures and stuff. I'm like, oh, all right. That sounds cool. So we went. And after that weekend, I just kind of was like, okay, At that point, I had researched there's no graphic design position within a motorsports team. I quickly learned a lot of things, just taking photos for racing. But so I was like, this will be my in.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn how to use the camera. It's a lot of the elements and different facets of photography are the same in graphic design and just design in general. So things crossed over, relatively easily. And there's a lot of photography used in graphic design. So it was kind of a pretty easy transition. I was able to learn both simultaneously as I was coming out of college. So I just go and I'd shoot, and I set up a little website so you could go on there and buy photos of your truck. I was charging like $5 for a digital copy or whatever. And then,
that's a deal.
Yeah, it's a deal. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, if you're a company and you need to use this, contact me and I'll give you my, commercial rights package.
You've moved from hanging out at the small places, just with your friends, into, and now I'm watching you. I don't even know if you have your own YouTube page, but because I'm always seeing you on Terra Crew.
Yeah.
Tell me about Terra Crew.
Yeah, sure. So, and it actually kind of flows in with just my general story. So after doing that for 2-3 years, I quickly learned that, racers don't pay for photos. They just screenshot them off your website and post them on Instagram.
It's like we're at Disneyland.
I was like, okay, so I'm not really making a whole lot of money doing this. So that's when I kind of started going after brands.
Yeah.
So I had a strategy to where I just kind of send a couple free photos. And this is when I started getting, in my opinion, pretty good at both taking the photos and then, the post-processing of the photos. They weren't so amateur-y, heavy HDR, bring the lights all the way up, take the darks all the way, bring the shadows all the way up, to put the lights all the way down, So I was starting to get pretty good at just taking pictures and being able to organize them and edit them and all that kind of stuff. So I started trying to work with companies.
Yeah.
And so in that way, I was starting to wedge myself into the scene or the niche. And it didn't start with Terra Crew, it started with Dirt Alliance. So I was at an event called Jump Champs, where it was kind of like run what you brung kind of event. There were certain classes for certain vehicles, and it was at this short course race in this race course in Glen Helen, California. And I met this guy, James, who ran it was called Dirt Alliance. Basically the same thing as Terra Crew. They had a YouTube channel. We sold merch. Just basically created original content for Instagram and YouTube, and the selling of merch kind of paid for the film trips or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I started with that. And then that was 7-8 years ago now. Mm-hmm. Fast forward a couple years. First trip I did with them was Pismo. We brought a bunch of really cool trucks and buggies out to Pismo and filmed them for the whole weekend, and shot, photos and stuff like that. And that's where I kind of learned another angle to what I could do with this industry. Was screw the races. They're really hard to shoot. They're expensive to shoot on my end. There's a lot of money to put up front. You got to pay for media passes. You got to pay for hotels, gas, food, all this stuff, right? And then you hope that you sell enough after the race that you will be able to make up your losses and maybe make a little bit of money. Or, you might be able to set up a couple of companies to work with that are going to pay you beforehand or whatever. So then once I hooked up with Dirt Alliance, and then we turned into Terra Crew, and I was like, shooting these trucks that are just kind of everyday vehicles that guys are building in their garage for toys or to have fun with. This is much more relatable.
Yeah.
And much more fun for me to shoot. And much easier to sell to companies. Mm-hmm. And blogs and
you're making connections one-on-one with people who are building.
Yes,
they have their people.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the whole point behind Terra Crew. We're a media company first, where we create original content. We sell merch every year. We put on at least 3 events. This year, I think we're gonna put on like 3 or 4, but they're getting to be pretty big events. But what we focus on is we focus on that guy that builds cool shit in his garage.
Yeah.
Or we focus on, we've kind of branched off into drifting. So now we're doing drift episodes.
There's a lot now.
There's Moto,
the drift. I saw RC.
Yeah, we have an RC page.
Happening?
We have some guys that build really cool
Yeah.
RC cars. And so we basically said, hey, here's a page. You guys run a page.
You could almost call it hobby, but that would be unfortunate and stupid to say that, because it's really not. Like, this is more lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we are, at the end of the day, Terra Crew is a lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
But, we sell merch and create content, basically. That's basically kind of where that goes. And we work with companies, and we get people to sponsor our events. We get people to sponsor our videos. We organically input product and stuff into a lot of our videos and stuff like that. So
thanks for watching my limited series, 39 Sketches, Life as a Creative. You can go ahead and find any of my novel work and art at Amazon or at JMendezNapier.com. Now back to BlackHat Studios, Evan Walsh. So big question, obviously, because I've always been working with teenagers. That's like my entire life. I've been hanging out with teenagers. I'm like, what the heck? This is my first year away. It's pretty liberating. But it's always about the money. Like, in the end, when you're a kid, you're like, well, what are you making?
Yeah.
I guess the question is not what are you making, but does it pay the bills? Are you finding a way?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. My wife makes more money than I do. So Laura makes enough money for us to save. We combined are able to pay the bills just fine. But we've also done things in our lifetime together the last 10 to 12 years. We've made smart decisions. We buy old cars. We don't have a car payment. We bought our house at like a pivotal time.
And you got to find a pretty special woman who's going to live up to that kind of idea.
She's the best. She's the best.
She's amazing.
She's always been like super supportive. There's been times where it's like, dude, like, you haven't made any money in like a month and a half. And I'm like, I know, right? Maybe you should hop on Indeed. But then I go on Indeed. I'm like, look, here's all the graphic design jobs in Fresno. I make more.
And here's the pay
than what these guys are paying. So I was like, we're
it's
doing pretty
perfect.
good. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
I my first week or two on my own, I'm thinking, is this even possible? And I'm like, of course it's possible if you have the skills, the tools, and you can find the people, right? If you can find the people, it's a hustle. Like, really, in the end, I think a lot of business is finding the right people and making those connections. So, if you think you want to be an artist or a creative or someone who's got a business, open up a restaurant, whatever it is, having an understanding of is it possible, and hearing from you that it is always encouraging.
Yeah. Especially in the beginning, you kind of have to be a little aggressive. So when I came in and started working with Dirt Alliance Terra Crew, I made myself present. And I talked to everybody in that group that was influential online at that time. Networking was a huge thing for me in the beginning to kind of lock myself in. When it comes to off-road racing and recreational photography is what I do, and especially off-road based. Most of the logos and the apparel designs and the wrap designs and stuff that I do are basically all going to be off-road based or fabrication based or whatever. So I've kind of like wedged myself into this niche and being here pretty much full time. Every once in a while I get like a graphic job that's not off-road related, or I get the drone shoot video job or whatever that's not off-road related, which is great. But even now I have solidified myself with those top guys that if you're in the off-road space, you know who they are. There's the one graphic design guy that pretty much does everybody's stuff. Well, a lot of people are coming to me now, and maybe not instead of going to him, but it's taken me a little while, but because in the beginning I put myself in front of the right people, and I knew who I needed to put myself in front of and who I needed to work with, I was able to solidify my position in the space or in the market within a few years.
You just put together a poster of just logos.
Yeah.
Whose logos are there? How many were there, and how long did that take? I'm looking at it.
That's over the course of the past 6 years, I think. And it's not all of the logos I've done. I can't tell you how many exactly are in there. There are variations.
If I was just going to look at it and guess, I would say there's 80 different logos on that page.
Yes, probably.
That's my guess.
80 to 100.
They're fun. They're fun.
Yeah. And I was looking, it's funny because I've been kind of like tweaking on it. Like I was like, oh, I forgot this one, and I forgot that one. The last couple of nights. As a matter of fact, I just finished a logo over the weekend that I had to add in there too before I try and go print it. But if you look in there too, you can really kind of figure my style. So when it comes to graphic, it's either I kind of go one way or the other. It's either dirty or clean. So some guys like really clean stuff, modern, serif type, racy kind of things, sharp edges. And then other guys I really like doing like the hand-drawn stuff. So there's a lot of hand-drawn stuff on there, which is like the dirty side. So if you kind of go through that poster, you can kind of see like, oh, clean, dirty. So if I want a logo from this guy, I know I can either kind of go one or two ways. That's kind of like what his style is. But yeah, there's a lot. After I put it together, I was like, man, there's a lot on here. I've done a lot of stuff in the last 6 years. So
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I love it. Again, as a teacher, as someone who's had you in class, had a lot of students in class, I'm going to go ahead and say, with a little bit of ego, it's nice. Obviously, I've imparted some skill, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
It's total lie. But before we get into the blood, sweat, and tears, because we're about to end, obviously, we want to be able to promote each other. I want to be able to promote you. If anyone's looking for me, it's at 39 Sketches. 39 Sketches is ultimately, it's about the day-to-day, right? It's about what we're doing right now in this moment. It's about these experiences that we've had that we just can never lose or get, nothing ever comes out of our mind. It's going to be stuck in there forever. And so I would imagine if I was to come up with a moment from our experiences together, one of those 39 sketches, something from my teaching experience, it would have to be the cutting board.
Oh yeah, of course.
And every year I bring up the photographs and I say, and there was it was actually in your class. Aaron's here doing some production work for me. We're going to catch up with him later. But in Aaron's class, as I do every year, I say, hey, there's certain things we got to do. We have to be real safe about, the cutting board. And I don't remember saying that to you. But after you, I said it every single year.
Yeah.
I actually had a risk management guy come in and maybe a lawyer.
Oh, shoot.
They're like, hey, maybe you should put together a piece of paper to kind of like have some parents sign off on the
totally
risks of the class.
Shit, I should have sued you guys.
I mean, hey, someone was wondering. So I'll have to throw this as a disclaimer. You sent me photographs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but I always I say, thank goodness these were not high-def 4K photographs. It was off of your flip phone.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but even those flip phone images, I would say, does anybody want to see? And then everyone's like, yeah, we want to see. So I would put them up on the big screen.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing that the year that someone passed out.
Oh my God, really?
They hit the floor.
That wasn't even bad.
After seeing your severed thumb.
That wasn't even that bad because that picture was after it sat in iodine and the blood had all clotted.
Yeah.
So before that,
no, it was clean.
You could see the tendons, the bone, like everything. I just remember I remember doing it. So we need to clear this up because it's very logical why it happened. Okay.
Yes, it is logical
because we were building our houses,
cardboard,
the cardboard houses.
Yep.
Okay. I needed to cut several pieces, and I was like, dude, one piece at a time is just not cool. So I was like, I'm gonna shove 3 pieces in there, and then I was going slow.
Yeah.
So I was going slow, and I was like, it's making a curved cut. I need a straight cut. So I was like, I'll just hold it down really good, and I'll just go for it.
Yes.
Obviously, my thumb was in the line of fire for the.
It was.
And I just remember going like, oh shit. And then I turned around. I was like, hey, Napier, I think I just cut my thumb off.
So you didn't get immediately into that. You made the cut, and then you wrap your hand around your thumb, and you start pacing.
Oh shit!
And there's there's blood coming down your arm, and he goes, Napier, and he is almost like this out of body thing, and I'm looking at you. I'm like, what's up? Because I think I got my thumb. So I go to look, and I'm like, just open it up for me, just show me. And you do this, and it goes, and I'm like,
And then you're like, oh,
I'm like, no, you need to put your hand back on that.
Let's wrap this up. Let's wrap it.
But there's a trail of blood on the floor, and I walk you to the office, and I don't ever see you again. And obviously, you came back, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
But I come back to class after that, and I've got the kids in the classroom. Like 1 or 2 kids are literally wiping the blood off. What are you doing? You don't need to touch this. Get away from the blood. It was definitely one of my 39 sketch moments, and something that I adored. And then for me, fantastic. So are there any moments in your career, getting back to you, out there where you're like, wow, blood, sweat, and tears, either blood, either sweat, either tears, where you just feel like you've given all for your craft? And we're going to end on that.
Yeah. I mean, there was a moment I was on the beach in Rosarito shooting pictures of Ken Block driving a trophy truck and doing donuts around us on the beach in Rosarito. And me and the co-founder of Terra Crew, James, was with us, and we both just kind of like stopped and said, like, dude, look at the situation you're in. We are here photographing and video or filming, probably one of the most popular motorsports stars on the planet on the beach in Rosarito because of this hobby or this thing that we love, that is off-road racing and recreation.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really like a, man, I worked so hard to get here. It was more of like we made it. Like, you know what I mean? Like after that shoot and after, that summer of working with him doing things for them, I was just like, like I'm good. Like if I don't do anything else cool, like I can always say that like I worked with Ken Block on some special projects. And like I had the poster back there, so that was the project that we worked on, Apocalypse Now, where he helped drive a trophy truck in the Baja 1000, but we got to go film him testing, and first time he ever driven one of these trucks and all this other things. And now that he's passed, he died last year in a snowmobile accident, like January 2nd. That's one of those moments where it was just like, what we've done and where we've come from is a pinnacle moment in our careers, in my career. So that's definitely one of the major moments in my career so far that it's like,
I love that.
Did something.
That is definitely something that would bring a tear to an eye, thinking again back to our small community. We've been a part of a school that was almost no population, right? That was very, very small for a very, very long time, and a small community outside of 2 smaller towns, and just to be able to find and cultivate creatives even in those locations. I mean, they're everywhere, and I think that's the exciting thing about art and the arts and being creative is if you have a passion for it, make it happen.
Well, and you just never know. I mean, it's hard. What I do is hard. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time to be able to keep going and not give up and go get a 9-to-5. But at the end of the day, it's 10,000% worth it. There's so many doors that have opened because of the networking and the community that I've become a part of. Where it's I've been to China because of this career. I've been to Japan. I've been to Mexico. I've been on across the United States multiple times, Midwest. I've traveled a lot and met a lot of cool people and some semi-famous people, and I've worked with a lot of really cool companies, and I've created a lot of artwork for a lot of cool small businesses and bigger businesses, which I just wouldn't have been able to do any of this stuff if I was stuck behind a desk at iHeartMedia, where I used to work. It's well worth the fight and the stress and the tears and the blood.
Well, Evan, it's actually a huge inspiration, your story. And I know that you probably don't see it from that perspective until you reflect back on the things we've just been talking about. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
Love that we got a chance to do this.
Yeah, 100%. Man.
We'll have to hang out. I want to come out to wherever you're doing work one of these days and feel the energy, because it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good time.
It's killer.
I'm running around like a stressful mess
You're working.
the whole time.
You're busy.
I'm producing the event, but
right on, man. Hey, thanks.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming by and like lighting up my studio. Nice.
It's fantastic. We definitely need to get a video really fast. You can find Evan on Instagram at BlackHat Studios, and you can find me at 39 Sketches. Thanks for watching. But just roll 5-10 seconds and us hanging out.
You know, we didn't say how I got the name. Kind of went off on a different.
Tell me how you got the name. Because we're still live. What name are we talking about?
The BlackHat.
Yeah, you said that you picked BlackHat.
Well, no, but there was a little story behind it. So I was in that business class, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want my.
Give me a vertical too.
I didn't want my name to be, my last name or whatever. So we had this session where working graphic designers came in and they checked out our portfolios and like this other kind of stuff. And I guess the guy that I was paired up with was interested in my stuff, or he liked my stuff.
Yeah.
And so he asked my professor, he said, what's the deal with Evan?
Yeah. And
she said, I don't know. He's the guy, he just sits in the back with a hat on.
Yeah.
He's the guy in the back with a hat on.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, BlackHat. I usually, most of my hats are black.
They are.
I do collect hats, by the way.
I have noticed.
I have like 200 hats. So I was like, oh, BlackHat Studios. And I wanted to be studios because I knew I was going to do photography and graphic design.
Yep.
And then the hat icon represents the hat, of course, represents me. It's obviously a flat bill baseball cap. And then the sparks, they're the lightning bolts are sparks of creativity.
Well, I'm glad that you brought it back because we needed that.
Yeah.